The boy hands the money back, not angrily, not dramatically, simply and completely. The way a person returns something that was never theirs to keep. He places the folded bills on the library step beside Daniel's hand and goes back to his table without another word. Daniel Harrow has not been refused anything in 22 years. He stands on the library steps holding his own money and does not know what to do with it. He is 50 years old and runs a company with 4,000 employees and has written checks that change the shape of cities. He has never once had to think about what to do with cash that came back to him. He looks at the boy. Ezra is 9 years old and is sitting at the small folding table he sets up every morning outside the main branch of the public library. On the table are bookmarks, handmade ones, cut from the pages of old books and threaded at the top with a short length of colored string. They are not elaborate. They are precise and careful, and each one is different because each one is cut from a different page. He sells them for $1 each. He was selling one to a man in a gray coat when Daniel arrived. Daniel had watched for a moment from the pavement. He had seen the folding table and the small, dark-jacketed boy and the careful rows of bookmarks and had done what Daniel Harrow does with problems that have an obvious solution. He had walked up the steps and put $40 on the table and told the boy to keep it. Ezra had looked at the $40. Then he had looked at Daniel. Then he had picked up the $40 and placed them back beside Daniel's hand with a politeness so complete it was almost formal. He said he had not sold Daniel $40 worth of bookmarks. Daniel had almost laughed. He had thought the boy was negotiating. He had thought this was the opening of a transaction. He had reached into his pocket again and said the boy could have more if he needed it. Ezra had looked at him with the particular patience of someone who has heard a question answered incorrectly before and is deciding whether to try again. He said he did not need more. He needed Daniel to either buy a bookmark or let him get back to work. The man in the gray coat had already paid his $1 and was walking back down the steps with his bookmark in his hand. A small woman with a briefcase was approaching from the left. Ezra turned toward her and smiled and held up 2 bookmarks for her to choose between. Daniel stood on the steps with his money. He is not a man who stands on steps with his money. He is a man who moves and decides and closes. But his feet did not move toward the pavement. He watched Ezra make the sale. $1. The woman chose the bookmark cut from what appeared to be an atlas page. Ezra thanked her and put the $1 in a small tin box on the corner of the table. Daniel looked at the $40 in his hand. He had never in his life felt the particular smallness that comes from being handed something back. He does not leave, and that is the first thing that surprises him. Daniel comes back the next morning without his wallet. He does not plan it that way. He simply finds himself standing on the library steps at 8:40 in the morning with his hands in his coat pockets and no particular reason to be there that he can explain to himself in language he would use in a boardroom. Ezra is already at his table. The bookmarks are already arranged. The small tin box is already in its corner. Ezra looks up. He does not look surprised. Daniel sits down on the top step a few feet from the table. He does not offer anything. He does not explain why he has come back. He simply sits, and Ezra simply works, and the morning moves around both of them, with the indifference of a city that has no interest in either of them. 2 customers come in the first hour. Daniel watches Ezra with each one. The boy does not call out or perform or hold the bookmarks up aggressively. He simply has them arranged and visible, and when someone slows, he holds up 2 options without pressure and lets them choose. When they buy, he thanks them once and puts the $1 in the tin. When they do not buy, he does not change his expression. Daniel has spent 30 years studying how people sell things. He has never seen anyone sell the way Ezra sells. On the 3rd morning, Daniel brings coffee. Not for Ezra, he does not presume, simply his own. He sits on the step and drinks it and watches the street. On the 4th morning, he arrives to find a customer already at the table, and he waits on the step until the transaction is complete. On the 5th morning, Ezra looks at him when he sits down and asks him a question. He asks Daniel what he does. Daniel tells him, CEO, company with 4,000 employees, offices in 6 cities. Ezra nods slowly. Then he asks a second question. He asks Daniel what he makes. Daniel begins to answer and then stops. He manages people. He manages capital. He oversees divisions and approves strategies and signs off on products that other people design and build and ship. He opens his mouth to explain this and finds that the explanation requires more words than he expected, and that the more words he adds, the less certain he is of the answer. Ezra watches him try to answer. He does not hurry him. Daniel is a man who has given keynote addresses to 2,000 people without a single moment of uncertainty. He is a man for whom words are instruments he operates with complete precision. But this 9-year-old boy has asked him what he makes, and he is standing on a library step unable to answer. Ezra picks up a clean piece of old book page and begins cutting a new bookmark. He cuts it carefully along a ruled line. He threads the string through the hole at the top. He holds it up and checks that the string sits straight. Then he places it in the row with the others. He made something. In the time it took Daniel to not answer the question, the boy made something. Daniel sits on the step and looks at the bookmark and understands that something has just happened to him that did not happen through any mechanism he recognizes. And he does not leave. On the 7th morning, Ezra asks Daniel to hold the string while he threads it. Not because he needs help. His hands are perfectly capable. He asks because he has decided something about Daniel that he has not explained and does not explain. He simply holds out the end of the string and waits. Daniel takes it between 2 fingers and holds it steady, and Ezra threads the bookmark in 3 practiced movements and ties it off. He says, "Thank you." Daniel does not know what to do with the thank you either. He is beginning to notice how many things this boy returns to him that he does not know what to do with. On the 8th morning, Daniel buys a bookmark. He does not make a show of it. He does not buy 40. He takes $1 from his coat pocket and holds it out and points to the bookmark, cut from what appears to be a page of poetry. The lines of text running at a slight diagonal where the page was not cut perfectly straight. Ezra takes the dollar and puts it in the tin the same way he puts every dollar in the tin. He does not treat it differently because of who is giving it. That is the part Daniel carries with him when he walks back down the steps. He has a bookmark in his hand that cost $1. He has given away more money than most people will ever see, and he has never once felt what he feels walking down these library steps with a $1 bookmark cut from an old poetry book. He feels like he earned something. At the office that afternoon, he puts the bookmark in the book sitting on his desk. He does not remember the last time he read a book at his desk. He reads 4 pages. Then he looks at the bookmark, holding his place, and thinks about what Ezra asked him. "What do you make?" He picks up his phone and calls his head of operations and asks her to set up a meeting with the product design team. Not to approve anything. To understand what they are making and how they make it and what it costs them in the particular way that Ezra's bookmarks cost him something. Time and attention and the decision to cut carefully rather than quickly. The head of operations is silent for a moment. Then she says she will set it up. Daniel puts the phone down and looks at the bookmark again. He has run a company for 22 years. He has made decisions worth billions of dollars. He has sat across from presidents and ministers and people who held the economic fate of entire industries in their hands. And a 9-year-old boy on a library step asked him one question he could not answer, and in not answering it, showed him something that 22 years of success had quietly taken from him without his noticing. He picks up the book and reads another page. Some people spend their whole lives learning the price of everything and never once learn the value of anything.